Hey, how are you? So good to see you, Serena.
So good to see you. Thanks for letting me just rip for a couple minutes.
Oh my God. Goddess is rule. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Juicero.
Okay, good. Awesome. Yeah, no, I just always love to give people a couple minutes because we get so much feedback that, when I start right away, people miss, and then they get anxiety. I don't want anyone to have anxiety. So we usually wait now, 5 minutes at least into the hour before we really dive in so that people don't miss all the juicy wisdom that my guest has to share. So, yes, so much sprout power.
All right.
So I love it. So I don't know if you got a chance to hear my intro that I gave.
I did. You're very kind and you're very generous.
Well, I'm very honest and very truthful, so it was really easy to share about everything that you do. Well, not everything, but a portion of what you do and what you know. So you've been featured everywhere. You've been on a million different podcasts and huge platforms and media outlets. But, thank you for taking the time to be here today with me and my community. We're so grateful. And we would just love to know how you got started on this journey. And I know you've been in it for a long time.
Yeah, so I've been plant-based over 21 years, and it's probably my proudest accomplishment because I'm doing it, for the planet, for the animals, and for myself. Mm-hmm. And I moved to the Mojave Desert 3 years ago, and I just wanted to be in nature, and I wanted to see sunrises and sunsets and see the Milky Way every night. And that was my vision. What I didn't realize was when you get to a level where there's no light pollution and you're in the middle of the desert, you're also in a food desert. And that became a moment where I was like, OMG, what am I going to do to eat? Where am I going to get my food from? Because I was doing the New York, LA, San Francisco triangle. So I had unbelievable access to Air One, to Whole Foods, to Crossroads, to Pure Food. I had access to premium farmers markets and food. And when I moved to the desert, I realized I'm in a food desert. Mm-hmm. And so my brain immediately went into survival mode. Because I had started to sprout 25 years ago, but I never knew, sprouts were always something I loved because they were living food and I loved watching them grow, but they were a small portion of my diet. Maybe once a week or as little as once a month, I would eat sprouts. So it was just not part of it. When I came here, my brain said, you got to get into sprouting. So I dusted off some jars. I ordered some fresh seeds. And within 30 days, 50% of my diet were sprouts that I was growing on my own kitchen countertop with a little setup.
We lost him for a second. Okay. There you are. That's awesome.
Yes. It's 2, 4, 5 jars, 6 jars to use for filtered water. And those 6 jars were able to give me 50% of my calories, and the rest was fruit. I really love fruit also. So if you look at my little place here, I've got fresh local we're growing in the desert now. I'm growing watermelons and cantaloupes and cucumbers and basil and aubergine, we're growing. But when it came to sprouts, the miracle for me was that you could take a seed, and which is a complete dormant plant organism. Every seed is the history of the universe in that seed. Yeah. And if you add water, that seed germinates, which means bursting into life. It burst into life force. And then within days, you could have edible food. And so that was the first part. So all of a sudden, I'm now eating fruit and sprouts. And then my brain, and I know you're a nutritionist and you're into it. I'm not. I was someone who ate a lot of plant food and I was very intuitive as my eating. But I was concerned, so I reached out to Dr. Joel Kahn, to Dr. Dean Ornish, to Dr. Josh Axe, to Dr. Oz, to Dr. Mercola.
Wow.
And these people, I've known them over the years.
Right.
The more time in, and I asked these people, what do you think about sprouts?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, they were like closet sprouters, and they were blossoming. They all loved sprouts. Like, they all loved sprouts.
Wait, before you? Or were they already doing it? Or did you ask them and they were like, let me get started?
They were already like closet sprouters. Like, they were into sprouting, but they're all busy. They all create food. They have different things. So sprouts were something that they were eating, but it was not their mission and definite purpose in life. It was just part of it. And when I told them it was mine, they agreed to be interviewed for my book. So I got to interview these people for my book. And so even before that, I felt confident that sprouts were the miracle food. Like, they were miracle food. That you didn't need to go to Peru or Ecuador or Africa to get this rare superfood. Like, sprouts were the superfood. So then I went on to the National Institute of Health, their database, and there were thousands of research papers on sprouts for literally sprouts as medicine, like how you were treating autism with sprouts, and how broccoli sprouts contained glucoraphanin and myrosinase that form sulforaphane as a longevity food, as an immune boosting food. So I said, and so then I went on to Amazon, and all the books written on sprouts were by like the hippies in the 60s and 70s, like the pioneers, the Ann Wigmores, the Victoria Stavinskas, the Steve Meyerowitzes. They wrote these books, but there wasn't a contemporary book. And so even though the extent of my writing was text messaging, I said, I'm going to write this book.
Yes.
And so, like, why not? Right? I feel like I can do anything. So I went to New York. I pitched one publisher, St. Martin's Press, part of Macmillan, one of the largest publishers in the world. And I brought sprouts in my hand. And I had some recipes of sprouts, and I had sprouts. And the editor, Elizabeth Beyer, was literally eating sprouts, like right out of the palm of my hand.
I love it.
And so I walked out with a book deal. And then the hardest thing in my life, right, was having to write 60,000 words, 288 pages on a book on sprouts. So that created a level of like discipline for me when I started to create my sprout log, get the information, do the research. I brought in someone to create 40 recipes in the book, and they're all plant-based, all raw, and 50% of the ingredients in every recipe are sprouts. So that you could start to think about sprouts as an important part. I use sprouts initially as a survival food, and now it's a thrival food because I'm able to deliberately understand like what makes sprouts magical. I'm going to show you one thing here.
Yes.
This is like 1 cup of lentils, French lentils, that I started to sprout yesterday, right?
Yes.
In 1 cup of sprouted lentils, like turns into 2 to 3 cups. So you're tripling your food. Yeah. But you're also, and you'll know as a nutritionist, you're doubling the antioxidant value. You're just doubling. So you're getting in this dormant seed, you're now activating chlorophyll, and the lentil is going through photosynthesis. And so that's powerful. You're tripling the vitamin C. Like you don't think of lentils as a source of vitamin C.
Right.
Right? But when you sprout the lentil, you have a living plant organism. So you're tripling the vitamin C. And then you're getting soluble and insoluble fiber that's paired with 7 grams of protein. So this little seed is like the perfect food. It's crunchy, it's fresh, and how you do it is like literally lentil sprouts, garbanzo sprouts, pea sprouts. You sprout those and they're ready in 3 days. This is a combination. This is a mix of garbanzo beans
Yeah.
and mung beans and green peas.
Yeah.
Right? I buy these in a 35 bucket.
I
Right?
get mine 10 pounds at a time. You have me beat. Like that's
I mean, 35 pounds. This is a food safe paint bucket.
yeah.
And
And I use the same brand too. Kitty cats, you can order them online. So yeah, and I love. Thank you so much, Doug, for sharing, because people don't realize that the immense power that is in this little seed. And it's, when we say it's a nutritional powerhouse, it really, really is. And it's exponentially more than what you realize. And can I show you something, Doug?
sure.
Let me just show you. So my timing was off with my harvest. Oh, we're getting water all over the place. My timing was off with the harvest. We had just harvested all our sprouts. And so this right here, let's see if you guys can see it on the plate here. This is only from like 24 hours. And I don't have a cup here. I have like about 2.5 tablespoons. And look at that.
Yeah.
And these are broccoli sprouts.
Yeah. So, Serena, talk about why broccoli sprouts.
Broccoli, actually, I would love for you talk about why broccoli sprouts. Broccoli sprouts are one of the most nutritious things. Broccoli sprouts actually have more nutrition than an actual broccoli head. So I'm gonna let you take it from there, because you are our featured guest today. Tell us about you.
So it's well known that vegetables are good for you, right?
Yeah.
We agree on that, and that cruciferous vegetables are very healthy, in particular for immune boosting, and they have the anti-cancer compound, right? Which is the combination of glucoraphanin and myrosinase, and they form sulforaphane. So if anyone were to just Google sulforaphane, and maybe you could type it in the notes, sulforaphane is the #1 treatment in the United States for autism. Not a cure, but the treatment for autism. And also, there's some reaction that when you chew, or the broccoli sprouts or any cruciferous vegetables, you mix these two other compounds, the glucoraphanin with the myrosinase, which is the enzyme, and you get almost like a fusion. And that's part of the plant's defense mechanism to keep pests away. Well, it turns out that the thing that keeps the pests away also is the killer of bad cells.
Yeah.
That it activates that way. Yeah. And so Dr. Jed Fahey at Johns Hopkins University was researching which type of broccoli had the most sulforaphane, and what he came to the conclusion was the broccoli seed had the concentrated amount, and the broccoli seed is what turns into sprouts. And I buy my broccoli seeds, I buy these in 5-gallon buckets, because the 5 gallons is amazing. And so you look at those, they're little seeds, right? These seeds are literally edible as a seed, as a day 1, day 2, day 3 sprout, all the way through microgreens. And the insight was that as the plant is getting bigger, you're actually diluting the amount of these sulforaphane as it gets bigger, which is why the broccoli sprout can have 20 to 100 times more of the anti-cancer compound sulforaphane than mature broccoli.
Exactly. And thank you for giving us that explanation. I really wanted to come from you, because you are our seed man. You're our seed guy. So that's why you guys, had a chance to tune in just in the last few minutes. Doug is explaining why broccoli sprouts and the seeds actually have more nutrient density than even the broccoli crown. And we have a ton of questions coming in. So first of all, yes, the seeds are organic. Doug and I actually use the same brand. I can post it and share it later, or we can take a picture of it. You want to hold it up, but they are organic. And what I do is, and you probably do the same, Doug, is if I'm just going to use the seeds before really taking them to sprout for a few days, you definitely want to soak them for a good, I think I soak one for about 8 hours or so, and then I let them dry if you're just going to sprinkle the seeds, and not have them sprout. How about you? How do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons I wrote the book, because people think about, or used to think about, sprouts as alfalfa sprouts for the hippy dippy trippies, like my community, right? And or like mung beans, in pad thai or in miso soup. And that was like the world of sprouts. And what I realized is you could sprout any seed: alfalfa, arugula, broccoli, bok choy, radish, cabbage. All of these seeds are sproutable. And it turns out that every seed really is its own unique characteristics. So you sprout chia and flax seeds differently than the way you sprout radish or clover, or the legumes, the peas and the garbanzo beans and the chickpeas. So everything has a different protocol, which is why I did my own primary research. I kept a good log, and I published these charts in the book. So that's an important part, like why I wrote the book.
You guys, this is the book right here. Doug was kind enough to send me a copy, but I would highly recommend that while you're even on this slide right now, or as soon as you get off the slide, you go and you get this book, because this is, if you haven't sprouted yet, this is everything that you need to do it right. Deb, we can get it from Amazon, right? Amazon is your site.
You can get it from Amazon. Actually, I think True Leaf Market sells the book also, and Sproutman sells the book. So the book is literally available around the world. It's now, it's shocking to me, Serena, because I didn't even know if anyone would buy the book, and the book is in its 5th printing since April.
That's amazing. The book is awesome, you guys. You have to get it. So it's going to have to go into its 6th or 7th pretty soon, because we're going to get a lot of people to get it today.
Well, we're translating it and adjusting it for Japan. So that's a big thing that the Japanese market loves it. So, so I'm doing the little things, and I'm working on the audio version of the book as well.
That's awesome.
So I think if I look at my insight, just to come back on the insight for a little bit, is that seeds have been around since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Right? My insight was that the process of germination was a requisite for taking the seed and growing it into a mature fruit or vegetable tree that might take weeks or months or years. But evidently nature made sprouts as a survival food because they make it totally edible at any stage. So I'm not saying that everyone should eat sprouts and, sprout only diet. What I'm saying is if you look at the number of occasions that people eat and drink, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, soup, salads, smoothies, entrees, dessert, if you add sprouts to every meal, and you as a nutritionist can attest to this, the bioavailability of the soluble and insoluble fiber of sprouts is so much easier on the microbiome than the roughage of mature vegetables.
Absolutely. 100. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. It's actually a point I was going to make, and that I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is one of the things that I would say some clients and some people have with the roughage that they know they need to put into their body. Sprouts are the way to go, and it's very non-intrusive, which is a word that I like to use when it comes to really getting in the nutrient density that we want to get from a natural food source. And it's easy to grow, it's easy to eat, it's something that you can sprinkle on just about everything. You don't even have to think about it. And I think they brought over, something that you held up. Someone was asking about, are there some pea sprouts? And yes, I have some right here. This is just from yesterday as well. We've got, peas and garbanzo beans and mung beans and adzuki beans, a whole group of them right here. So
yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, the fact that you can sprout almost anything And when you sprout it, you're introducing the life force into this. So what happens is, in history, there was never a shortage of land, right? So we had farmers and there was gardening and industrial agriculture. People were growing food. But today, when people are living in small quarters, van life, small homes, apartment buildings, right? In those places, people don't have gardens. So everyone is just trained to go for convenience. And in the inner city, like one of the reasons why in the inner city and in those food ghettos, people aren't buying the fruit salad in McDonald's for $4.99 when they could buy a 9-piece chicken McNugget for 99 cents. Like, they're going for the calories, and they're going for the fat, sugar, and salt to trigger their brain. When you connect with pretty much any person as an individual equal being, and you tell them about sprouts, and the first response when you tell someone to eat organic plants, the first response is like, it's too expensive, not accessible. But sprouts make it the equalizer. And when Marianne Williamson stepped off of the campaign trail, and I know we're a week away from the election, when she stepped away from the campaign trail, I was her first podcast to talk about food equality using sprouts. And so I think that people get this. So when I speak to people that were theoretically nutritionally deficient, and I tell them about sprouts, and their first response is too expensive, inaccessible. And then I just say, hey, take some seeds, take a jar, take a can, take, anything, add water and rinse twice a day and you'll get food. And that's what's spurring this movement, because now, my head of research actually just shared with me that NASA is doing research about sprouting so they could feed the astronauts when they're on long-term missions outside, and sprouts will even grow in space. They can grow. So here's the upside. Sprouts are really low cost, right? Really low cost if you grow them on your own. If you go to Air One, and I've had the guilty pleasure of going to Air One and just buying sprouts, right, for $5 a pack. If you grow them on your own, 30 cents, 50 cents, you could grow your own sprouts. So sprouts are very affordable. You as a nutritionist goddess know that they are super nutritious, right? So
they're so nutritious. And again, what I love about them is just it's like an all-encompassing thing. You're first of all, you're growing something. So you're taking something from the earth, from Mother Nature, and you're nourishing it. And it doesn't even take a lot of effort. It just takes a little bit of water, and now you're growing something. And so the energy and the vibration that you're putting into that which you're growing, that you put back into your body from an energetic place, from a vibrational place, you're feeding your spiritual body that way. But it's also so nutrient dense for all the signs that you explained to us earlier. You're getting so many vitamins and nutrients, and you're getting so much more than you would if you were to, have a whole head of cauliflower, or broccoli. And so it's also very unintrusive to the whole course of your day, because some people, if you want to have a more expansive menu throughout your day, you want to have different things, and you want to be full on 3 servings of broccoli to get those nutrients, you can have a handful of broccoli sprouts and get 3 times as much. So that's another really amazing thing about the sprouts. And we have so many people that have questions for you, Doug. We're definitely going to leave time.
Let's go to Q&A. Let's go to Q&A, and I'll give you short answers to all the questions.
Oh, well, no, we don't have to give short answers. We definitely want to get to a few of them.
Okay.
So people have been asking questions like, do you need sunlight? And you just talked about NASA and space.
No sunlight. Mm-hmm. I mean, the amazing thing is the seeds, like nature designed seeds, to basically either fall on the ground and then go into the soil and have the moisture and sprout, or to have some bird or rodent or animal eat them, poop them out, and they begin to germinate in the digestive system. So the seeds will grow without fertilizer, without soil, without sunlight, that first week, nature designed them to survive and sprout and burst into life. So that's it. So no sunlight required.
No sunlight requirements. It's like a perfect food. So, someone said, can you put it in shakes and juices? Absolutely. You can put it in like everything, basically, like wherever you choose. So
100%. As a matter of fact, the founder of NutriBullet, Colin Sapphire, who's launching the Beast, he's sending me pictures of him sprouting, and he's using sprouts as the mega nutrition to go into his smoothies and his blasts.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, I threw them in mine too. I mean, some of the everyday things that go into my smoothies are sprouts, and I also do some Irish sea moss. I mean, those are 2 ingredients that go in any smoothie that I make, no matter what flavor. So let's see. And then, a couple questions that came up constantly was water. Does it matter what type of water you use? Can it be, does it have to be filtered, alkaline, tap? I mean, I have my opinions on that, but I want to hear yours.
Yeah, so my preference would be to get natural spring water, right? So if you're near a spring and you can get natural spring water, that's great. The second thing is filtered water is probably the most reliable, consistent thing, because if you can filter out some of the chlorine and some of the fluoride, because the chlorine is designed to kill, and you want the sprouts to grow. So if you can remove as much of those, but pretty much, I don't stand on ceremony. Like if someone tells me, they're living, in X market and they don't want to spend $1 or $2 for bottled water, they don't have a filter, they've had extraordinary results just using tap water. So I would say use the best water you can, but it's more important that you sprout than get stuck on water.
Yeah, that's a great point to make. It's just don't overcomplicate it in your head. It's more important that you go ahead and you sprout it and use what you can. Clean, filtered, Mountain Spring is the first preference, but clean, filtered, and for most of us it's pretty accessible. People are asking about if you had to sprout in jars, can you sprout in trays? And I use jars. I've used the trays as well. I like the jars personally. It looks like you like the jars too, but what's your professional experience feedback on jars and trays?
Yeah, so I like everyone else. I'm pretty busy, so I'm doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so my routine with the jars is pretty honed in and polished, right? I can be running 6 jars in the small amount of space and get a lot of food.
Yeah.
Certain sprouts actually do better in trays because they'll grow straight up and then they can grow into microgreens and it can be really pretty as a garnish. But it requires much more attention to do it. So even though you can grow on a tray with an unbleached paper towel or an alternative to soil, once they get past the week, you still want them to grow. And if you don't have soil, then they don't do so well in the tray. So I'm kind of like short cycle. To me, food, the sprouts are like sprouts is medicine, sprouts is vitamins, and sprouts is food. And I can be very successful and fast using the jars. I posted last week a routine where I was processing 3 jars, loading up another jar in a 3-minute video on Instagram that I was able to do. So in 3 minutes, I'm able to juggle 3 jars. So I think that's why I prefer the jars.
Yeah, same. It's just super easy to just go through, do your rinse, dump out the water. I mean, it takes just a couple minutes to go through that process. And it's really so rewarding. You guys just set it up in your kitchen and you watch them grow and it's beautiful and they taste amazing. That's the other thing too. You're really eating something that's so fresh. It's nutritious, but it's also eating living foods. It's very important as part of your repertoire of having a variety of different types of plants into your day and into your diet.
Yeah, I would also say that sprouts are really tender, right? So if you were to blend those with avocados and other things, people don't even taste them. So they're a great thing to slip into the diet. I love, I used to eat enormous salads, right? And I would have the mesclun greens, and I'd have arugula and spinach. And now the basis of my salads are sprouts.
Yeah.
And I just bought, check this out. This is my favorite thing to enhance my sprouts is raw tahini. So you can, if you buy a jar of tahini, right, it could be $10, $15 for 14 ounces. Mm-hmm. You can buy a 17-pound bucket of tahini for $100.
Yeah.
So I'm I add tahini, which is raw, and it's calcium based, and it's flavorful, and it's fat. Tahini makes everything taste better. Yeah. So I just use tahini, and then my recipe, and I'll give you my favorite recipe for a sprout paste, is I take fresh tahini, I take olives, so Kalamata olives, and blend them together, and then with a little water, and it just makes everything taste good. That's my little recipe. You can just add everything to it, and I recommend thinking about adding sprouts as the first thing you put in your mouth and the last thing. So think about a way to incorporate sprouts, because sprouts have a very neutral flavor. Some sprouts like radish and mustard and fenugreek have the bitterness is actually a benefit. It's a real reaction. The broccoli sprouts cause the heat shock proteins to be activated, which is what causes the reduction of the symptoms of the autism. And so if you mix the broccoli sprouts with the mustard sprouts, you even get a more potent part. But if you're just eating food, think about having sprout salad and adding tahini. And it's easy and it feels good. It's inexpensive. And if you think about, I don't know where people are, but when I went in and I looked at the cost of buying mixed salad greens, right? You get a little pack for $3, $5 for 4 ounces, which basically comes to about $15 or $16 a pound. Mm-hmm. You can grow a pound of sprouts for $1. Right?
Yeah, literally a whole pound of it.
A pound of sprouts for $1. And so you're getting the freshness. If you go to the store, you don't know, especially if you're on the East Coast or Vermont or Midwest, where they're not growing the greens. Mm-hmm. These greens may be a week or 2 weeks old before they even get to the supermarket. So the idea that you can control your freshness and sprouting on demand and getting a routine, and then it's kind of like a miracle to watch the seeds grow.
Oh, it's so fun. I love it. I love watching those seeds grow. And it's also, you get a yield depending on the seed within a couple days. Some take a little bit longer, but you can get, especially from this batch, I think we're ready to go after about 3 days. Nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's interesting to be connected with your food.
Yes.
Right? If you think about in your beautiful home, right, with your altar behind you, you could be sprouting and looking and becoming aware of the universal force of infinite energy and the life force. Yeah. So, that was something that never really made sense to me. Mm-hmm. And now it's totally I'm clued into the fact that I'm alive. I want to eat living foods. I want enzymatically rich. I want to get my vitamins from food, not from supplements. Like, I don't need a multivitamin. I want to get like a combination, an array of sprouts as my source of vitamins, nutrition, fats. People, it's like, well, where do you get your fats from? And it's interesting. You can sprout hemp seeds, right? You can sprout chia seeds. You can sprout flax seeds. It's kind of like all these things. So imagine sprouting flax and chia to get your medium chain fatty acids from fresh living seeds, and also to get the benefit of the soluble and insoluble fiber, and they turn into a plant with leaves that turn green, that are going through photosynthesis to get the green and to get the chlorophyll. Like, this is an amazing, like, little science project that you can do for pennies a day.
Yeah, no, and really, I think that it's such a great point that David brought up that I mentioned earlier. Is just having that connection. I talk about often when I'm talking about culinary alchemy, and that intention and the energy that you're putting into your food. This is something that's so simple that you can do every day, and just having that connection with your foods, with your sprouts, and the living power of those sprouts going back into your body again from a really high-powered nutritional place, but also from an energetic place. The frequency and the vibration of that food as it's growing for you and for your body, and the intention of letting you back into it goes back to you and whoever you're feeding. So it's really, I mean, if you think about it and you just take a moment to be present with it, it's really like a powerful, almost ritualistic thing that we can do every day, and it's so simplistic. Really, it's so it just sits there and it doesn't take up much space, and it doesn't really actually take that much effort at all or energy to do. So we do have some more questions. Some people talked about blending, and if that does destroy the nutritional vitality of the sprouts. And I would say, I do minimal blending, so it would be the last thing that I put in. I blended everything else up first, and then I add the sprouts last, and then I do a very light blend for my smoothies. How do you do it, Doug, if you're putting sprouts into your smoothies?
Yeah, so I think it's an important thing to know that actually, in the case of broccoli sprouts, freezing broccoli sprouts is actually a benefit, because the freezing process breaks down the cellular walls and helps increase the amount of bioavailable sulforaphane. And also, blending can help break down the wall, because we live in a society where people don't chew. They inhale their food.
It's kind of true.
Right? So, like, I grew up getting more food on my face than in my mouth, and I inhaled my food, right? So by blending, you are meticulously helping to break down. The fine line is you don't want to blend to the point where you're generating heat, right? So you want to keep it down, but otherwise, I think blending, consuming, and then it's very important to use your eyes and to use your senses to literally stare at the food with the intention, and then look at it to get the digestive fluids going, because the digestion begins with the eyes, right? You're looking at this, you're digesting. It's like Pavlov's dog. You start to salivate. Like, I literally salivate as I'm looking at the sprouts, and I'm waiting with intention so I'm not inhaling them. And then you put them in your mouth. Even if it's a juice, if it's a smoothie, if it's food, you want to hold them in your mouth, mix them with your saliva, chew them 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times, break them down. Like, a lot of people, get gas and acid reflux and flatulation because they're not like pre-digesting their food using their eyes and their mouth and their senses. Like, smell the food. Like, you can smell. Like, these senses help to not only tell you whether the food smells bad or smells good. It's tuning in. Like, when you inhale, it's tuning in the digestive fluids and the microbiome so they can get ready for proper digestion.
Exactly. And such a good point. I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's a good reminder for us to really, and something again that I remind my community of as well, just to have some presence. Have some presence and to take that moment. And even if that's why some people do prayers or, do Reiki or just having a moment, be present with those sprouts and that food in front of you so that, yes, you can get your digestive juices flowing, that pre-digestion, activates in our body. We shift into a much more parasympathetic state so that we can really digest and process and absorb those nutrients. And they're so rich in nutrients, you want all of it. And someone else had a question earlier, I really wanted to go back to it, was where they can find the study that you referenced about sulforaphane and Alzheimer's, which I think if you happen to know off the top of your head, I'm sure that
I would literally Google broccoli sprouts, sulforaphane, and the keywords, and there's a National Institute of Health study. There's just so much. Last year alone, in 2019, there were over 1,500 research papers published on sulforaphane and broccoli sprouts for autism and treating cancer and hypertension.
Wow.
It's really 1,500. And I wrote this in my book that the research is on the broccoli sprouts and cruciferous vegetables today, but I believe every single one of these sprouts has their unique, equal characteristics. Just no one's funding the research. Like, I'm 54 years old. I've never seen an ad for sprouts on television in my whole life. No radio ads, no billboards. So the money for research is going, from industry-based to promote things that they're selling. And that's where it's important to, start a grassroots or countertop mason jar movement.
Yes.
So that people can understand and we can get more research and we can look into the amount of polyphenols and bioflavonoids and the micronutrition that's in sprouts. Intuitively, enough, right, to be able to feel comfortable recommending sprouts to your clients, right? You feel
absolutely. Absolutely. We do. And actually, I would say that just in the span of this past year, I want to say that I would say if I would take 10 clients, at least 8 of them are now sprouting. Maybe not like daily like how you and I do, but they do sprout on a regular basis and they use different ones. So it's been fun for them and just something, again, that's very accessible, something they can do, something that you're growing on your own, whether it's, in your own home, that you have total certainty over what goes into it and then that goes back into your body. So I would say that even the simple act of growing it and then eating it has been incredibly empowering for a lot of people who are really trying to add to their own health, and really help support their own immunity and add that kind of quality whole food nutrition to their diet. So it's beyond just the vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients that we're getting, and beyond just that connection vibrationally, it's also been something that's been very empowering. And a very simple act of certainty that people can do. So, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you think about this, right? And, I don't give nutrition advice. I'm an author and, I'm living in this body, right?
Yes.
But I read. And when I read that, 94% of COVID cases had comorbidity issues of pre-existing conditions of chronic illness.
Yeah.
And I realized that most of these chronic illnesses were lifestyle attributable, right? Yes. Type 2 diabetes, lifestyle disease. Obesity, lifestyle disease. A good portion of cancer, lifestyle disease. Heart disease, lifestyle disease. So if people were eating healthier, they would strengthen their immune system. One of the reasons why in Japan they have COVID under much more control is because the people in Japan are healthier already. So what happens is if you're healthy, you can do this. So I think we'll look back in history and see all of these reasons of sprouting. But I believe that right now, everyone who's sprouting, everyone who's watching your live, we are getting a glimpse. 2021 will be the year of sprouts. Like this is the year of sprouts. 2021 is coming. It's coming in all directions. Like, if you were to even today go onto like Google Trends and type in juicing, blending, sprouting, you'll see like these other things have peaked and gone down, and sprouting is just going up in all directions.
I would totally agree with you on that. Absolutely. I mean, I really feel like the trend has picked up. And just from the people that I work with, my client basis, and just knowing, what's stuck with them, what's not, what they've been open to. The fact that I have some clients who I never really would have thought would have been open to this, and they're doing it, to me speaks volumes. So I agree with you. I think that it's 2021. 2021, it's going to be the year of the sprout. And where's, what am I looking for? Oh, right here. This is, people are asking about the brands that you and I use. And this is one of them. I think you use the same, right? Handy Pantry? Yeah.
I use Handy Pantry, which you can get at True Leaf Market. And I use Sprout Man seeds. And then right now, like, my favorite thing is to find local organic farmers that are creating sprouting seeds. And the important distinction, like when you're buying seeds, is you want to get organic seeds designed for sprouting that can actually that have been tested for pathogens. Like, you want to start off with a good seed and a good start. So even though you could just go to the bulk bin and maybe get legumes out of there, you'll get a higher germination rate and a cleaner seed, if you're buying specifically sprouting seeds.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I would say those are the good sources to use. And then again, this is your other resource that you've got to pick up too, and you can do it. And if you look on my pinned comment on the bottom, you'll see Doug's Instagram handle. He's also on our most recent post and all the stories that we put up. Go give Doug a follow and go and check out everything that he's doing. He's doing obviously amazing things. He shared so much wisdom today. And check out his book that we can get anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So Amazon, his site, pretty much anywhere. If you haven't started, and I did see a few people that said, I ordered my book, I'm waiting for it. Another person was saying I need to dive more into sprouts. You've got to dive into sprouts with this. This is going to be your sprout Bible. I know it says the sprout book, but I really should say the sprout Bible.
Yeah, well, you know what? The publisher wanted to call it the Sprout Bible, and I felt like it wasn't quite a Bible. It was the first book to open a conversation about sprouting. So maybe the Bible will come over time.
Yeah, are you doing another?
I think that I'm going to be publishing more research. There's a lot to do about making it easier for people to sprout globally. So I think that I found my calling, or the sprouts have found me.
That's beautiful.
Like when I moved, to the desert, I came here and I was just totally focused on how can I make my life better and what can I do? And it was very key and clear that I needed to focus on eating healthy, taking care of myself, sleeping and resting. And I was just an open vessel to see, like, what did the universe want me to do next? And then it gave me a problem. How can I eat? Right? How can I eat without going to Del Taco and 7-Eleven and McDonald's? And then the sprouts came, and they've just been so prolific that I know. And now, if I ever leave the desert, I know that I can take the sprout intelligence with me and sprout anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yeah. And it's such a beautiful message. And this is something, really that anyone can do anywhere. And as we talked about earlier during our chat, it's just really kind of democratizing really quality nutrition for everyone. and Sprouts is a great way to do it. So I love your movement, and thank you so much for coming on today and sharing with us all of your wisdom. And it goes way beyond Sprouts, but thank you so much for sharing that with us today and sharing how you do it, and just together we're showing people like how easy it is, and it's just something that you can also share with other people. So this is knowledge that you have now. You can go get the book, you can start the process in your own home, but share it with your friends, share it with your family, show them how easy it is to do this on their own, and then ideally they can continue to share it on to the people that they know. So we really want to keep this movement, not just, this movement is going to take over 2021, so we want to be a part of that and help you with that journey.
Yeah. We'll see that in history.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Serena, thank you so much for your time and your attention,
so welcome.
and your openness and your love. Thank you. I'm so grateful, and I look forward to staying in touch. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much, and thank you, you guys. Thank you all. I know you have more questions. Reach out to Deb. He'll answer you. He's great with direct messages. I personally know that. So if you have more questions about all the different seeds, I know that some people had asked about different seeds, go ahead and reach out to Doug. His Instagram handle is at the bottom here, but you can go to my most recent post and my stories, and you'll find him that way as well. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Doug. I'll talk to you so soon.
Okay, my pleasure. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.